y'all. This is Michelle Raza with the Finding Yourself Book Club, and today we're taking a break from John Gottman's What Makes Love Last. We're going on a little detour, and we're going to be covering the 7 principles of making marriage work. So we've been talking about attunement and the 4 steps to attune with your partner, the art of intimate conversation. And so we're taking a little detour to talk about the stress-reducing conversation. So in Gottman's chapter about attunement and the art of intimate conversation, he goes quickly over the 4 steps. But I just feel that this section on the stress-reducing conversation has some really good do's and don'ts that we can incorporate into having those conversations and how to attune to each other. So we talked about taking turns, showing genuine interest, and then not giving unsolicited advice. So today we're going to dive into communicating your understanding, taking your partner's side, expressing a we against others attitude, showing affection, and validating emotions. If we get enough time, that we'll continue on into the section about the stress-reducing conversation. Just going to take a sip of chai. I'll be right back. I don't know how I did this, but somehow along the way, I moved, my little tripod fell and my glasses fell. So these are I have 2 glasses that look the same. I get on things that I like, and then I have lots of the same things. So I lost my computer glasses. I don't know where they are. And I'm using these. I mean, I guess I can see okay, but at some point I'm going to have to just take everything out of this room and find those dang glasses. I hope I don't step on them first. Okay, so don't give unsolicited advice. I'll say that. I think this is the 5th time that I say it, but I'll keep saying it because it's so important and also very, very difficult. I don't know if I already put in the plug for my website, but if I didn't, please do check out our site. We're at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. Your first consult with us is always free, and we'd love to have a conversation with you. You can also check out the life balance questionnaire on our site, fill it out and send it to us, or we can just have a free form conversation, whatever you prefer. So, okay, moving on to communicating your understanding. Let your spouse or your partner know that you empathize. If you tend to be on the quiet side or aren't in the habit of sharing emotions, you might be uncertain about what to say to show understanding. So, here's a list of suggested phrases. Use any that feel comfortable for you. What a bummer. I'd be stressed out too. I can see why you feel that way. You're making total sense. I get it. You're in a tough spot here. I wish you didn't have to go through that. I'm on your side. I wish I could have been there with you. Oh, wow, that sounds terrible. I totally agree with you. No wonder you're upset. Oops. I'm just dropping everything here today. First I dropped my glasses, now I almost dropped the book. It would be great to be free of this. That must have annoyed you. That sounds infuriating. That sounds frustrating. I would have been disappointed too. That would have hurt my feelings too. That would make me feel sad too. Make me feel hurt too. Make me feel insecure too. Make me feel mad too. I would have trouble coping with that. That sounds scary. So take these, they sound canned, right? They sound like they're written in a book, but take these and make them yours. If you have, I don't know, we haven't been talking about this book, so this one came in out of left field, but if you pick up a copy and you have your own, or if you already had it, we're on page 99. You can also, I believe if you download the Gottman card deck, I think it has some of these phrases as well, but you kind of have to put your own spin on it. You don't want to sound like a robot repeating phrases. And it goes back to what we were talking about. Just because you memorize French words, if you don't understand what they mean, you're not really speaking French. So you have to kind of take these phrases and learn how to empathize and make it sound genuine coming from you. You can't just parrot it. Okay, the next here is taking your partner's side. This means expressing support even if you think his or her perspective is unreasonable. Don't back the opposition. This will make your partner resentful or dejected. If your wife's boss chewed her out for being 5 minutes late, don't say, "Oh, well, maybe Bud was just having a bad day." And certainly don't say, "Well, you shouldn't have been late." Instead, say, "That's so unfair." The point isn't to be dishonest. It's just that timing is everything. When your partner comes to you for emotional support rather than for advice, your job is not to cast moral judgment or to tell him or her what to do. It is to express empathy. In other words, your job is to say, "Poor baby." So we talked a little bit about this in one of the other videos. I actually used the same example, the timing example about being late. It's just so you want to take your partner's side. You want to withhold your advice or judgment. That doesn't mean that you never give it. You just kind of hold it until that moment is past. And so I think the rule book here is, what is your partner coming to you for? If they really need support from you, it is not the time to give advice. And then also understanding must precede advice. So they have to feel like you understand their situation before you give them the answer. And ultimately, I mean, we talk about this in coaching all the time, but if the person that you're talking to comes up with their own solution, even if it's the same solution you would have told them to do, but if they come up with it, they're much more likely to follow it and follow through than if you tell them what to do. So just being there and being empathetic and being supportive is sometimes enough. And if you really have something to say to your partner, just hold it for the moment and tell it to them tomorrow. Just keep that in mind, put it in a jar, put it in a journal, put it somewhere and tell it to them tomorrow. Okay. Expressing a we against others attitude. If your mate is feeling all alone and facing some difficulty, express solidarity. Let him or her know that the two of you are in this together. Now, this is actually really hard. In my own particular situation, I feel like sometimes if you're trying to talk about something difficult that's happening, it can sometimes turn into, like I've been told by multiple people that I can stress people out. Like I'm telling them everything that's running through my mind and it'll end up stressing them out. So expressing the we against others attitude is, sometimes it's a matter of holding your tongue. It's letting them know that you're in this together, and it's very specifically not turning on them when they're seeking support from you. Show affection. Hold your mate, put an arm on his or her shoulder, tell them that you love them. Number 8, validate emotions. Let your partner know that his or her feelings make sense to you. Phrases that communicate this include, "Yeah, that is really so sad," or "That would have me worried too," and "I can see why you'd be annoyed with that." Okay, so the next section here gives some examples, and I think we'll go into them on the next video. I did want to go back, so I think it came to my mind a few times, but I kept forgetting. So the whole understanding must precede advice bit, I was going to tell you all that I've actually had therapists in the past, right? They deal with so many people, and I feel like their problems are, there's a lot, like everybody's unique, but I feel like what I was coming to them with, like in my own personal life and my issues, it was something very common that the person had seen quite a bit. And so they immediately gave me the solution. They were like, "Oh, why don't you just do this and this?" And I can tell you that years later, right, maybe they were right, but in the moment, they didn't take at all time to sit and listen to me and make me feel heard. And so I wasn't receptive to their advice. Understanding has to precede advice. You have to make your partner feel heard and supported and listened to, even if this is something like, let's say it's the same thing that you come across at work all the time, so you have the right answer. And I'm actually very guilty of this because I'll give my partner advice all the time. And the point is, you want them to feel heard before you give them the advice. And maybe they don't even want the advice in the moment, right? Maybe you just want to be on their side and be there with them and hold their hand, and just think about it in your own mind, because I know it's something that I struggle with. I'll tell them this tomorrow, and put it somewhere safe. Like in my case, I have a journal, and it's something that I can refer back to. I'm not going to lose it. So I'm not going to lose the thought, but I put it there, and then tomorrow I can bring it to them. So definitely hard stuff to practice. In the next video, we will talk about a few different examples here of the stress reducing conversation. And then we will flip back to John Gottman's What Makes Love Last and continue those conversations there. So if you haven't had a chance, please do check out our website. We're at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. I'd love to chat with you. And if this is the only way I ever communicate with you, that's perfectly fine with me too. But of course, the one-on-one and the actual back and forth is always a little bit better. But give me a call, text, or send us an email. All right, take care. I'll see you tomorrow.